box. My thanks go to Brexit Secretary David Davis, who's just come into the studio. Good to see you, Mr. Davis. You're looking suitably chipper and ready for action. Can you just help me with one thing? Are we paying a divorce bill? And if so, is it 30 billion, 300 billion? Is it zero? Where do we stand?
300 billion was the Trump number, I think. No, look, we haven't had any document from the European Union. What we've said, what the Prime Minister said over and again, is the era of paying big sums to the European Union is coming to an end. We'll meet our international obligations, but we expect our rights to be observed, and let's wait and see what they come up with. But I think beyond that, it's far premature to talk about any of this stuff. We're pretty plain where we want to go.
Give my listeners a beginner's guide to the Great Repeal Bill.
Oh, right. Well, we're leaving in 2 years, 2 years from yesterday. That's the law of the European Union. And at the end of that period, we want to have the maximum certainty for all the businesses and the citizens of the country. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeal the European Communities Act 1972. You smile at that.
You make it sound so easy, Mr. Davis.
And the other thing we're going to do is take all the existing European law and put it into British law. Now, what's the advantage of that? Firstly, there's continuity. So if we're striking a big comprehensive trade deal, all our product standards and so on are exactly the same as the European ones. The other advantage, of course, is it's now in British law. It means the British Parliament and British government can change it as it sees fit. So it sounds simple, but actually it's quite complicated to bring all that stuff in because, you've got, I don't know, bits of legislation that depend on European regulators and bits of legislation that depend on documenting to Brussels, not here. We've got to change all of that. But in essence, it's a simple idea, and it will put us in a position in 2 years' time where we're well placed to have a really good deal, but also perfectly placed to control our own destiny.
To those who question the stance taken by the Prime Minister over security yesterday, characterised with one headline, your money or your lives, with the benefit of hindsight, was it a little too aggressive?
No. I mean, bear in mind, first thing is yesterday afternoon, I spent the entire afternoon on the phone to all my opposite numbers around Europe, or not all of them, but a large number of them, talking about the letter. They'd all seen it. They all thought it was incredibly positive. That was the sort of overwhelming response of all, virtually all, so they thought that. The issue on security, remember, the Prime Minister was the longest lasting Home Secretary in modern times, arguably the most successful Home Secretary in modern times. And she takes this very seriously. And what she was saying is, look, a part of our deal with Europe, a part of our treaty, as it were, existing arrangements with Europe, are things called justice and home affairs. Treaties on data exchange, on terrorists and criminals, treaties on arrest warrants, treaties on Europol. All of that's built into the European treaty. So when we leave, that all goes. Now,
doesn't that place risk with the security of my listeners? And
that is the point. That is the point. This is a two-sided thing, and we're saying we want that to be put back. Not put back exactly the same, but we want the equivalent put back in place as best we can, and that's a negotiation for both sides. And the point she was making was not that this was bad for Europe; it was bad for both of us. Right? We can cope. Her words were, we can cope, but it would be better if we had a deal. So she was making the point that we're not aiming for a no deal. We're aiming for a good deal. We can cope with no deal, but it would be better for both of us if we've got a good deal. That was the sum total of it.
Why should they give us a good deal?
They should give us a good deal because it's good for them too.
Why? Would it not encourage other countries to have Frexits and Spexits and goodness knows what else? Yeah, Sweden, Sexit, whatever. Yeah. But look, the simple truth is this. We're a very unusual country in European terms. We've got a long-standing tradition of liberal democracy long before we joined and so on. Many of the countries in Europe, they're not just there for economic reasons. They're there because for them, Europe represents democracy, freedom, the rule of law. Think of those countries that used to be dictatorships, or the ones that used to be under the Soviet jackboot, all of that, They're there for something more than just economics, Us leaving won't have any impact on them. That it was a big fear, I think, at the beginning, immediately after we left. But it's one of the reasons we took 9 months to come to this point, is to give things time to settle down. As you know, negotiations are not just about logic; they're about mood and sentiment too. And we let it settle down. And actually, we've got not a bad mood on the continent. You're nothing if not a conservative tough guy, but you'd have needed a heart of steel not to be slightly moved by the "we're missing you already" comment, Mr. Secretary. Well, of course they are. I mean, look, our allies.
It was very poignant, wasn't it, when Tusk said that?
Of course. You know, and bear in mind, we voted for Tusk to carry on in his current job against his country's opposition. But the truth is this: when I talk to our opposite numbers, they all say, you know, we wish you weren't going. And why do they say that? Partly it's money, of course, but partly, and I think mostly, is because we're allies on all the things they think are important: free trade, deregulation, security, stability, the rule of law. We're good guys on all these things, right? So we're not going to be there anymore in the councils on those matters. So we understand that they feel that, and they would rather we didn't leave. And if they could find a way of stopping us leaving, they probably would, in their own interest. This is understandably sad for us, but for them. But I say to them, look, we're not leaving. You know, we're not going to be in the union anymore, but we're still going to be around. We're still going to be around on defence. We've got battalions in Estonia and Poland. We've got ships in the Mediterranean handling migration issues and so on. We give them, there's lots of, even outside the European Union, there's lots of data exchange on terrorism and this sort of thing. We do a lot. We take our global responsibility seriously. We always have. Even our biggest opponents in Europe recognise our role in the peace of Europe and stability of Europe. And we'll continue to do that. And we'll continue to be their friends in the longer run too. That's the aim. A new, special and deep relationship. That was the sort of phrase used many times in the letter yesterday. That's what we want.
How much of a shudder ran down your spine when Jeremy Corbyn said he's going to ensure that he holds you and your colleagues to account?
Look, and of course that's his job. That's what the Labour Party should be doing. And now they seem to have settled on a position. Well, good, But I am very plain in my mind. We're being very ambitious. The normal approach for politicians is to sort of play expectations down, aim low, and so on. I'm not doing that. I'm saying we're going to go for the best possible deal we can. Now. It's a negotiation, so you can't guarantee things. But that's what I'm going for, because this is the national interest engaged here. Yeah. And that's what I want to do.
Last question coming up after that. Every time I see you, you look more chipper, so obviously you're relishing this. You said yesterday you spent all of the afternoon on the phone to some of your European counterparts, as I'm sure you did. At the end of that day, when you allowed yourself a glass of cheeky red, was it French or New World wine you chose?
Well, I didn't order it, but it was French.
It was French. So the union is still there. The entente cordiale.
Oh, look, listen. Being, when the Prime Minister says we're leaving the European Union, we're not leaving Europe, that's certainly true about the wine.